She was a very kind, very caring person, soft-spoken, slight stature, very passionate about different social action causes that she believed in deeply, caring about the world, and that would be probably the description that I can think of that sort of picks up those attributes of her that I remember most.
We were freshmen in college together, and her room was directly across the hall from me. I remember I would feel so comforted being in her room with her. She would be on her bed and I'd be on the floor in a cozy spot and just, feeling really safe and loved.
I met Barb in 1968 in my freshman orientation at the University of Rochester. We both were starting out in our college lives. I met her and I wanted to be her friend. She was a fascinating person.
I always thought of her as brilliant. She would make connections between things so fast, and I could never keep up with her. She was very intense, very passionate about things, very strong moral values. In retrospect, I realized that some of the things that were happening in probably the fall of her sophomore year of college was that she was already having some symptoms, and she would be, we'd be walking together and she'd be pointing to something and saying it had some specific meaning to her, that the clouds in the sky had some specific meaning to her. And I remember that all of her friends were really concerned and knew that there was something not right, but we did not know what it was.
It was extremely sudden in my experience. I remember it was our second term of sophomore year, and I'm not sure exactly when it was in the winter. She and I were walking out of the dorm, and she asked me, "Lisa, did you put out your patchwork dress to mock me and say that I'm the court jester?" And that was this dress. My grandmother made this. It's a patchwork quilt that I made. She made the quilt, and I made it into this mini dress. It's a mini dress from the 60s, And I used to wear it, and it was a very fun, wild thing to wear. And and Barbara remembered this dress, but I said to her, "No, I hadn't put the dress out. I'm not sure what you're talking about." And we were outside, and she looked up at the sky, and she said, "I'm seeing these things in the sky, these shapes, and I'm afraid someone's put acid in my coffee, LSD." And I said, "Whoa, what's happening? And are you okay? And what can I do?" And she said, I'm going to go back to my dorm and lie down and try to rest, and take care of myself." The next thing I heard about Barb was she was in the hospital, as I recall.
It appears that she became very, very depressed, and she ended up in Strong Hospital, which is in Rochester, New York. And she was hospitalized there for months, and apparently in such a deep depression. And her parents came to visit with her and stay with her. The only person she actually allowed to visit her was me. And I went once to see her, and it was so sad to see her. She was just really immobilized.
Yeah, I was very worried about her because she was transformed into a different person. She was not the same vibrant personality. She had medication changes, and she would have periods where she did very well, but when I would get together with her, we didn't have the same peer relationship.
We've had discussions off and on over the years, and some things were written in her letters. The thing that stands out in my mind that really is most, poignant, I don't know if that's the word, is the last time she came to visit me. And she was getting ready to get on the train to go back, and she basically told me that none of the medications worked for her. And that was just such a heartbreak.
Barb and I shared a lot of interests also. We were both very interested in social justice, very active in the community, and very involved in Jewish life. I think it was hard for her to have this mental illness that would interfere with her life. Like, for example, she'd get a job, and then it wasn't that long before something would happen, and all of a sudden she's losing the job. People called me and they said, "We've been with her all these years. We had no idea she had a mental illness." Because see, when she was having episodes, she stayed away. And when she was feeling good, then she came. So people saw her when she was, at her best.
Later letters were very intense about experiences she was going through in Minnesota and the difficulties she had in dealing with being there, some of the pleasures.
Well, I remember I was driving and I heard on the radio that a woman had been shot and killed at 31st and Hennepin. I could not bear to find out exactly what happened. I just know that she was having a manic episode, and that somehow how the police dealt with her, that she ended up dying. It was a beautiful service. It was amazing to me how many people came who were outside the circle of friends. People who had read about what had happened and heard about it and then wanted to come to the memorial service and be a part of this. When I bring it up to somebody 10 years later, and they say, "Oh, I remember that clearly." People thought, if this can happen to her, this can happen to my sister, my daughter, my brother, my son. It just seemed so outrageous to so many people. And I think it really just grabbed them that way, grabbed them emotionally.
I would really like people to know Barb for the person she was, not for the illness, not for the tragedy that happened to her at the end of her life.
There wasn't ever a replacement for someone like her. She, just remarkable. Being a fabulous friend who became sick, and in losing connection with her, I just had this loss that, I'm still looking for people like her.
I couldn't bear to find out the details. I could not bear to have it in my head what actually happened. And in fact, it took me years. I finally was deciding I had the courage to find that out, and that's when I Googled Barb Schneider and found out about the Barbara Schneider Foundation. And that blew me away, because that's what the organization is what she wanted for her own life. She wanted to give back to the world.